Once upon a time, the government had a vast scrapyard in the middle of a desert. Congress said somebody may steal it at night, so they created a night watchman position and hired a person for the job. Then Congress said, how does the watchman do his job without instructions? So they created a planning department, hired 2 people, one to write the instructions, the other to do the time studies. Then Congress says, how do we know that the night watchman is doing his task correctly? They hired a quality control department, hired 2 people, one for the studies, one to write the reports. Then Congress said, how will these people get paid? So they created 2 positions, a timekeeper and a payroll officer, then hired 2 more people. Then Congress said, well, who will be accountable for these people? So they created an administration section, hired 3 people, administrative officer, assistant administrative officer, and a legal secretary. Then Congress says, we have this command in operation for 1 year, and we are $918,000 over a budget. We must cut back. So they laid off the night watchman. Let that sink in. So, quietly, like sheep to the slaughter, does anybody remember the reason given for the establishment of the Department of Energy during the Carter administration? Anybody? Nope. Bottom line is we spent several $100 billion in support of an agency, the reason for which very few people can read this, can even remember. The Department of Energy was instituted on 8/4/1977 to lessen our dependence on foreign oil. Pretty efficient, huh? And now, it's 2022, 45 years later, and the budget for this necessary department is at $242 billion a year. It has 16,000 federal employees and approximately 100 contract employees, and look at the job it's done. This is where you slap your forehead and say, what the hell were they thinking? 34 years ago, 30% of our oil consumption was from foreign imports. Now, today, 70% of our oil consumption is foreign imports. Good old federal bureaucracy. Now we have turned over the banking system, healthcare, the auto industry to the same government. What could possibly go wrong? Signed, the night watchman. Remember? Too big to fail. Well, we need to get rid of the Energy Department. We need to get rid of the Clean Air Act that took all the jobs out of the United States. There's a lot we need to do. We have a lot of unnecessary, overburdened taxpayers on the job here. That's the problem with this country. Look at the Department of Homeland Security. Do you feel well protected having a Homeland Security? No. Used to be all these agencies, they had their own little heads, and they were saying during the war, well, nobody's keeping in touch. So we're going to put this all, we're going to lump it all into one area. Now you got one guy in charge of all the stuff, and none of the brainwashing is getting out of there. If there's something wrong, they cover it up. They just keep piling barrier after barrier after barrier upon things so that you can't do anything about it. Have you noticed that? Remember the night watchman. You stop and think about that. 45 years later, and the budget for this necessary department is at $242 billion a year. And we're sending billions overseas to help build up these countries, and we can't take care of our own people at home. We got homeless that aren't allowed to protect themselves, and they're living out in the street and getting shot and killed and stabbed. The world has gone to hell, and we let it. We let these damn nitwits run the show. And it wasn't set up that way. They just kept giving themselves more power, more money. Okay, enough of my ranting. Yep, the night watchman.